All right, now we take you to this discussion. So Yoweri Museveni has secured a 7th term as Uganda's president. The 81-year-old won by 71.65% of the vote, defeating his main rival, known as Bobi Wine. The pop star is disputing the result, claiming there was fraud and vote rigging. The elections were marred by violence, intimidation and a nationwide internet blackout. Museveni delivered his first post-election speech yesterday. But for more on this, we are joined in studio by Inge Herbert from the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. She, of course, is the regional director for the Friedrich Naumann Foundation in Sub-Saharan Africa. Inge, good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. I think before we get into the details and the Foundation's view on what is taking place within Uganda, I'd love to hear about the Friedrich Naumann Foundation's work with the NUP, that is, of course, the body and the party led by Bobi Wine.
So thank you very much, Naledi. So Bobi Wine, he's actively in politics since a couple of, let's say, 10 years. And 8 years ago, the Friedrich Naumann Foundation gave him an award for his achievement to become politically active in such a difficult environment. That is the Friedrich Naumann Foundation Africa Freedom Prize. Now, it's the second time now that he stands as a presidential candidate. The first time in 2021 and now again. But before that, he was already a member of parliament for his party, the NUP. And since then, he's really built up structures of a party, which is a real party now with different structures in the whole of Uganda.
Yeah. Just in the run-up to those elections last week, we did see reports as well, and this was being reported across the world, really, of an internet shutdown in Uganda, and that also led to questions about the safety of Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, who is known as Bobi Wine. On Saturday, however, he was able to release this video on social media. Let's take a look at that quickly.
We reject whatever is being declared by Mr. Byabakama, because those so-called results that they're declaring are fake, and they don't in any way reflect what happened at the polling stations or what is at the declaration forms. And therefore, those results, the so-called results, are fake. After arresting almost all our agents, after ballot stuffing, and after shutting off the internet, the regime is trying to once again rig the elections. What happened in the polling station is a completely different story, and we demand that the internet be restored and the rightful declaration forms and tally sheets from the districts are uploaded on the internet so that the people of Uganda can see the rightful results in transparency.
Now, what Bobi Wine did in that video as well was assure his followers that he is alive, that he was able to escape house arrest. What do we know about his safety at the moment?
So this morning we talked to the Secretary General of the NUP, David Lewis, and he confirmed us that Bobi is safe. He's hiding. So in a telephone conversation, you wouldn't say where he's hiding. We think he's still in the country. How could he have left the country? So he's safe, but it's a very concerning situation. His family, his wife, is in house arrest in his house, and Bobi is hiding somewhere in the country.
And have there been active threats on his life and that of his family in the run-up to these recent elections?
Very much so. It's quite a regime. So General Muhoozi, who's the son of Museveni, he has even threatened to behead, to cut off the head of Bobi Wine when he gets him in his hands. There's been threats all the time along, and of course there's been a lot of abductions of militants of NUP and other opposition parties.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, where these threats are being made, you know, and there's the threats to behead Bobi Wine, I mean, it's frightening when you think about it, but you also have many supporters in Uganda that are very much in support of Bobi Wine. What that means for stability in Uganda at the moment?
Yeah, well, the supporters, it's amazing how courageous they are. There's many supporters, and well, of course, nobody is safe in that country in such a situation, and we can just hope that the violence will calm down.
71.65%. That's the result. That was declared as the win for Yoweri Museveni. I mean, initial reactions when you look at those numbers.
Yeah, I think you must put it into brackets that cannot be the result. I just can't imagine that with a young population in like in Uganda, which is the youngest in all of Africa. It's an average age of 16, and there's so many new voters, and we know that they support people like Bobi Wine, and they want a regime where they can be safe and where human rights are respected. And it's been a fight of an 81-year-old against a 43-year-old, and I personally just can't believe the results. And even if these are the results, then we must say, like Bobi has been saying, that the elections haven't been fair and just. All the way up to the elections, there's been intimidation, there's been internet shutdowns, you just mentioned it. So it was not fair elections, so this result is highly questionable.
The role of regional bodies on the continent where this conversation comes about. I mean, there's the discussion about you know, the age of Yoweri Museveni, an 81-year-old man, a 7th term as president, again, president since 1986. And then you've got the likes of Paul Biya on the continent as well over 90. Are regional bodies doing and saying enough?
I don't think so, and I think it's good that you refer to the regional bodies, and it is an African thing, right? It's, in my view, it's much less the international community who can do something here. Of course, they must also have a view and say something on that. But the regional bodies, and especially the EU Commission, I personally am very decepted. I'm very disappointed by the EU Commission statement, because the statement wasn't only congratulating Museveni on his win, but even commending the conduct of the elections. And that's really too much. I feel as a young Ugandan, you would really be very disappointed to hear something like that from a regional body representative.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching the story very closely, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. The regional director there of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation in Sub-Saharan Africa, Inge Herbert, chatting to us this morning.